Welcome to our series on the Iliad and the Trojan War. Today, we embark on a journey through one of the most influential epic poems of ancient Greece. The Iliad, attributed to the legendary poet Homer, has captivated audiences for centuries with its tales of heroism, fate, and the wrath of the gods. The Iliad is set during the final weeks of the Trojan War, a conflict between the Greeks and the city of Troy. While the war itself lasted 10 years, Homer's epic focuses on a brief but intense period, highlighting the hero Achilles and his rage. The poem explores themes such as honor, pride, mortality, and the intervention of the gods in human affairs. Homer, believed to have lived in the 8th century BCE, is credited with composing both the Iliad and the Odyssey. His works were passed down through oral tradition before being written down. The historical context of the Iliad is rooted in the Mycenaean civilization and the Late Bronze Age, around the 12th century BCE. Though the exact details of Homer's life remain mysterious, his work has shaped Western literature profoundly. The Iliad is structured into 24 books, each detailing different aspects of the war and the lives of its key characters. Central themes include the hero's struggle for personal glory, the impact of fate, and the gods' involvement in human affairs. The wrath of Achilles, triggered by a personal slight, drives much of the narrative and underscores the poem's exploration of pride and vengeance. Achilles, the greatest Greek warrior, is known for his unmatched prowess in battle but also for his deep sense of honor and intense emotions. Hector, the noble Trojan prince, embodies the ideals of courage and loyalty to his city and family. Other significant characters include Agamemnon, the Greek leader whose quarrel with Achilles sets off a chain of events, and Priam, the king of Troy, who faces the destruction of his city with dignity. The gods play a crucial role in the Iliad, often intervening in the war to support their favored mortals or to settle their own disputes. Zeus, the king of the gods, attempts to maintain a balance, while Hera and Athena favor the Greeks. Apollo and Aphrodite support the Trojans. These divine interventions add a layer of complexity to the human conflict and emphasize the theme of fate. The Iliad was part of the rich oral tradition of ancient Greece, where poets recited epic tales to audiences. This tradition helped preserve the stories and ensured their transmission through generations. The rhythmic structure of the poem, with its repetitive phrases and epithets, facilitated memorization and performance. While the Iliad is a work of myth and legend, it contains elements that may be rooted in historical events. Archaeological excavations at Izarlik in Turkey, believed to be the site of ancient Troy, have uncovered evidence of a city that experienced significant conflict. These findings suggest that there may be a historical basis for the Trojan War, though the details remain shrouded in myth. The Iliad has left an enduring legacy, influencing countless works of literature, art, and philosophy. Its themes of heroism, honor, and the human condition resonate across cultures and eras. From ancient Greek tragedies to modern films and novels, the Iliad continues to inspire and captivate audiences. In the upcoming videos, we'll explore the events leading up to the war, the major battles, and the epic's legacy. From the judgment of Paris to the fall of Troy, we'll dive into the story of the Trojan War and the heroes who shaped its course. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and stay tuned for the next chapter in our series. Thank you for joining us on this journey. This is the second episode in our 12-part series. Today, our story begins with the judgment of Paris, a mythological event that set the stage for the Trojan War. I'm excited to have you here and hope you'll come back for the next chapter in our saga. The wedding of Peleus and Thetis was a grand celebration, attended by all the gods and goddesses of Mount Olympus. The festivities were lavish, with divine music, ambrosia, and laughter filling the air. However, one notable absence was Eris, the goddess of discord, who had not been invited due to her reputation for causing trouble. Furious at being excluded, Eris devised a plan to disrupt the celebration. She threw a golden apple into the midst of the assembly, inscribed with Callisti, which means to the fairest in ancient Greek. This act immediately caught the attention of the attendees, sparking curiosity and tension among them. This simple act of tossing the golden apple into the midst of the celebration sparked a fierce rivalry among three of the most powerful goddesses, Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. Each of these goddesses, confident in her own beauty and desirous of the title, claimed the apple as her own. The competition quickly escalated, and the joyous atmosphere of the wedding was overshadowed by their intense dispute. The goddesses demanded that Zeus, the king of the gods, decide who among them was the fairest. Faced with this daunting task, Zeus found himself in a difficult position. He knew that choosing one goddess over the others would inevitably lead to enmity and discord among them, potentially upsetting the balance of power on Mount Olympus. Reluctant to make the decision himself and eager to avoid the wrath of the slighted goddesses, Zeus devised a plan to delegate responsibility. He appointed Paris, a young prince of Troy renowned for his fairness and sound judgment, to make the choice. By passing the decision to Paris, Zeus hoped to maintain harmony among the gods while distancing himself from the potential fallout of such a contentious decision. Paris was tending his flocks on the peaceful slopes of Mount Ida when, to his astonishment, Hermes, the swift-footed messenger of the gods, appeared before him, accompanied by the three radiant goddesses. The sudden arrival of these divine figures left Paris bewildered and awestruck. Hermes, with his customary eloquence, explained the situation and presented Paris with the daunting task of choosing the fairest among the goddesses. Each goddess, determined to sway Paris's judgment, offered him a tempting bribe in exchange for the golden apple. Hera, majestic and commanding, promised Paris unrivaled power and kingship over all men, envisioning him as a mighty ruler with dominion over vast lands and people. Athena, wise and strategic, offered him unparalleled wisdom and skill in war, envisioning him as an invincible warrior and a master tactician whose name would be remembered for ages. But it was Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, who captivated Paris with her irresistible offer. With a voice as enchanting as her appearance, she promised him the love of the most beautiful mortal woman, Helen of Sparta. Aphrodite painted a vivid picture of a life filled with passion and desire, promising that Helen's love would bring him unparalleled joy and fulfillment. The thought of possessing the heart of Helen, renowned for her extraordinary beauty, ignited a fire within Paris's heart, eclipsing the offers of power and wisdom made by Hera and Athena. The decision, fraught with divine implications, would forever alter the course of his life and the fate of many. Paris traveled to Sparta under the guise of diplomacy, embarking on a mission that was shrouded in both political and personal intrigue. Upon his arrival, he was warmly welcomed by King Menelaus, who was unaware of the true intentions behind Paris's visit. It was during this time that Paris met Helen, the wife of Menelaus, renowned throughout the ancient world for her stunning beauty and grace. With Aphrodite's divine assistance, Paris was able to captivate Helen's heart. The goddess of love and beauty worked her charms, ensuring that Helen felt an irresistible attraction toward Paris. As days passed, their bond grew stronger, culminating in a passionate affair. Paris, emboldened by Aphrodite's promise and driven by his overwhelming desire for Helen, decided to take a bold and perilous step. In a daring move, Paris abducted Helen and took her back to Troy, an act that was both reckless and defiant. This betrayal was a grievous affront to Menelaus, who was not only humiliated but also deeply enraged by the loss of his wife. The abduction of Helen struck at the very heart of Greek honor and pride. Menelaus, determined to reclaim his wife and restore his honor, called upon the kings and warriors of Greece to aid him. The leaders of the Greek states, bound by oaths and driven by a sense of duty and revenge, rallied their forces. Thus, a massive Greek army was assembled under the command of Agamemnon, the mighty king of Mycenae. United in their resolve to retrieve Helen and punish Troy, this momentous act of betrayal by Paris set into motion the events that would lead to one of the greatest conflicts of the ancient world, the Trojan War, a war that would be marked by heroism, tragedy, and the wrath of the gods. With the stage set for conflict, the next chapter of our series will delve into the tragic sacrifice of Iphigenia, a pivotal moment for the Greek army. Join us as we uncover these poignant moments that marked the beginning of the Trojan War. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Your support helps us continue to bring these timeless tales to life. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more. Thank you for joining us once again on this journey through the epic tales of the Iliad. This is the third episode in our 12-part series. Today, we delve into one of the most poignant moments in Greek mythology, the sacrifice of Iphigenia. This tragic event, born out of divine wrath and mortal duty, played a crucial role in setting the stage for the Trojan War. I'm thrilled to have you with us, and I hope you'll return for the next chapter in our saga as we follow the Greeks to the shores of Troy. Before the Greek army could set sail for Troy, a fateful decision was made, one that would leave an indelible mark on their souls. The Greeks, led by King Agamemnon, had gathered at Aulis, eager to embark on their campaign. Yet, the wind would not favor them, and their journey was stalled by a force greater than any army. But how did they arrive at this critical juncture? In our previous episode, we explored the judgment of Paris, where a seemingly innocent choice led to the unraveling of Troy's fate. Paris's decision to award the golden apple to Aphrodite set in motion a chain of events that would bring the Greek army to the shores of Aulis, ready to wage war for Helen. But the gods, as ever, had their own plans. Agamemnon, leader of the Greeks, had unknowingly offended Artemis, the goddess of the hunt. In her wrath, she stilted the winds, preventing the fleet from sailing. Desperate to appease the goddess and fulfill his role as the leader of this grand expedition, Agamemnon sought guidance from the seer Calchas. The prophecy was devastating. To gain Artemis's favor, Agamemnon must sacrifice his own daughter, Iphigenia. Torn between his duty to the Greek cause and his love for his daughter, Agamemnon faced an unimaginable choice. As a father, the very thought of harming Iphigenia was unbearable, yet as a king, he knew that the success of the entire expedition and the honor of Greece rested on his decision. This was not just a question of victory, but of legacy, and the weight of history bore down upon him. Iphigenia, summoned under the guise of a joyous occasion, a marriage to the hero Achilles, arrived at Aulis with hope in her heart. The excitement of a wedding to one of Greece's greatest warriors filled her with joy. But beneath the surface, an unbearable tragedy loomed. Agamemnon's torment grew as the moment of truth approached, his heart heavy with the weight of his decision. The soldiers, too, were silent, knowing the dreadful truth that lay ahead. When the truth was revealed, Iphigenia displayed a bravery that belied her youth. She accepted her fate, stepping forward to meet the gods' demands with a grace that would be remembered for generations. Her sacrifice was not just for her father or the army, but for all of Greece. As the altar was prepared and the final moments drew near, the air was thick with sorrow and resignation. Each step Iphigenia took toward the altar was a step toward immortality, her name forever etched in the annals of myth. This tragic event cast a pall over the Greek forces. The soldiers, once eager for glory, now carried a heavy burden, knowing the price that had been paid. The sacrifice of Iphigenia served as a stark reminder of the cruel demands of war and the gods' relentless control over mortal lives. No longer was this just a quest for honor, it had become a journey marked by blood and tears, with each soldier now questioning the true cost of their mission. With Iphigenia's sacrifice, the winds at last favored the Greeks, and they were free to sail towards Troy. But the cost of this journey had already been steep, and the challenges ahead would demand even more. In our next episode, we'll follow the fleet as they reach the shores of Troy and begin the long and bloody siege that would define this epic conflict. We'll explore the arrival of the Greeks, their first skirmishes, and the early strategies that set the stage for the Trojan War. The war is just beginning, and the sacrifices have only just begun. After the sacrifice of Iphigenia, the winds finally favor the Greek fleet, and the mighty host sets sail for Troy. This moment marks the beginning of the long and grueling conflict that would last 10 years and become one of the greatest wars in Greek mythology. The call to arms was issued across Greece, summoning kings, warriors, and heroes to join the expedition. Agamemnon, the leader of the Greeks and king of Mycenae, called upon the greatest warriors of the time, each with their own motives, alliances, and grudges. The assembly of this vast army was a monumental task, involving logistics, diplomacy, and the coordination of multiple city-states, each with its own interests. The Greek army was composed of some of the most legendary figures in Greek mythology, each with their own unique attributes and stories. Let's take a closer look at some of these key figures. Achilles, the son of Peleus and the sea nymph Thetis, was the mightiest of all Greek warriors. His mother had dipped him in the river Styx, making him nearly invulnerable, except for his heel. Achilles was destined for greatness, but his fate was also marked by tragedy. His participation in the war was crucial, yet it was tinged with personal motives and a sense of foreboding. Odysseus, the king of Ithaca, was renowned not only for his prowess in battle but also for his cunning and intellect. His contributions to the war effort were as much about strategy as they were about combat. Odysseus would later become the hero of the Odyssey, but here he plays a vital role in the Greek efforts against Troy. Ajax the Great, known for his immense size and strength, was one of the most formidable warriors of the Greek army. His bravery and skill in battle made him a key figure in the Greek ranks, especially during moments of crisis when brute strength was needed. Nestor, the wise king of Pylos, was the oldest and most experienced of the Greek leaders. His role was often that of an advisor, offering counsel to the younger warriors and guiding them with his experience in previous wars. As the Greek leaders assembled their forces, they converged at the port of Aulis, where a massive fleet of over 1,000 ships was gathered. This fleet represented the combined might of all Greece, and its departure was an event of immense significance. Before setting sail, the Greeks performed rituals and sacrifices to the gods, seeking their favor for the perilous journey ahead. These rituals were a crucial part of ancient Greek warfare, as success in battle was believed to depend on divine support. The Greeks were well aware of the challenges that lay ahead, both at sea and in the upcoming siege of Troy. The journey from Aulis to Troy was fraught with challenges. The Greek fleet had to navigate treacherous seas, and there were reports of storms and other divine signs that caused concern among the leaders. However, the gods were appeased, and the fleet eventually made its way to the shores of Asia Minor, where the city of Troy awaited. Upon arriving at Troy, the Greeks immediately set about establishing a beachhead. The Trojans, led by their own formidable warriors, were prepared for the Greeks' arrival, and the first skirmishes soon broke out. These early encounters were a prelude to the long siege that would define the war. The first battles were fierce but inconclusive. The Greeks sought to establish their presence and demonstrate their strength, while the Trojans aimed to repel the invaders before they could gain a foothold. These initial clashes set the tone for the long and bloody conflict to come. The Greeks began to establish fortified positions around the Trojan plain, preparing for the protracted siege. Their strategy involved cutting off Troy's supply lines and gradually weakening the city's defenses. The Trojans, however, were not easily defeated, and their resolve would test the Greeks at every turn. As the siege began, both sides engaged in diplomacy and deception. The Greeks sent envoys to Troy, attempting to negotiate the return of Helen and avoid further bloodshed. However, the Trojans, confident in their city's defenses and the support of their allies, refused to yield. This refusal solidified the Greeks' resolve to continue the siege.
Return Helen, or we will reduce your city to ashes.
Helen stays with me. She is no longer yours.
Troy stands firm. We will not surrender Helen.
Then prepare for war. Our ships are ready.
With negotiations failing, the Greeks settled in for what would become a long and grueling siege. The initial optimism of a quick victory faded as both sides prepared for the long haul, with the war stretching on for years. The Greek leaders knew that they faced not only the Trojans but also the harsh realities of war, including disease, famine, and the weariness of their own troops. The Greek army's arrival at Troy marked the beginning of one of the most legendary conflicts in history. Over the next 10 years, heroes would rise and fall, and the fate of Troy would hang in the balance. In our next video, we'll delve into the personal conflict between Achilles and Agamemnon, a feud that would have profound consequences for the entire Greek army. Today, we delve into one of the central themes of the Iliad, the wrath of Achilles. This anger drives much of the plot and reflects the larger-than-life emotions at the heart of this epic poem. After the fallout between Achilles and Agamemnon, Achilles withdraws from the battlefield. His absence, however, leaves a void that affects the entire Greek army. Without their greatest warrior, the Greeks struggle to maintain their morale and strength. At the heart of Achilles' wrath lies a personal insult. Agamemnon, leader of the Greek forces, seizes Briseis, a woman given to Achilles as a prize of war. This dishonor leads Achilles to withdraw, causing a rift among the Greeks.
You have insulted me, Agamemnon. I fought and bled for the Greeks, and now you take Briseis, my prize? How dare you dishonor me like this?
I am the leader of this army, Achilles. The gods have cursed us with a plague, and I needed to give up my prize. It is only fair I take another in return. You are not above me.
Your greed will be the death of us all. Without me, your army is nothing. Keep Briseis, but know this, I'll fight for you no more.
You think yourself irreplaceable? Pride blinds you, Achilles. If you abandon the fight, so be it. We will fight without you.
You will regret this, Agamemnon. I promise you, the day will come when you will beg for my return, and it will be too late.
Achilles' pride and sense of honor are deeply wounded. He refuses to fight not just out of anger toward Agamemnon but as a matter of principle. His emotions fuel his rage, and without him, the Greeks are left vulnerable. Without Achilles, the Greeks face heavy losses. The Trojans, led by Hector, grow bolder, pushing the Greeks back toward their ships. The tide of battle has turned in favor of Troy. The gods, as always, play a role in human affairs. Achilles' mother, Thetis, pleads with Zeus to punish the Greeks until they realize how much they need her son. The gods manipulate events, but it is human pride that sparks the conflict. In a desperate attempt to bring Achilles back to the battlefield, Agamemnon sends an embassy to offer gifts and beg for his return. However, Achilles refuses, still consumed by anger and hurt pride. His refusal further demoralizes the Greeks. Despite his fury, there is one person who reaches Achilles' heart, his close friend, Patroclus. Their bond becomes crucial as Patroclus eventually takes up arms in Achilles' place, with tragic consequences. As the Greek army suffers, Patroclus, seeing the dire situation, pleads with Achilles to let him wear his armor and lead the Myrmidons into battle. Achilles agrees, but warns his friend to return after driving the Trojans back. This moment foreshadows the tragedy that will follow. Achilles' wrath, though justified in his eyes, brings devastation not just to his enemies but to his own people. In our next episode, we will see the price of his anger and the tragedy that follows with the death of Patroclus. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and stay tuned for the next chapter in our series. In the epic of the Iliad, the gods are not mere bystanders but active participants in the Trojan War, manipulating events, aiding or thwarting the mortal heroes. From Mount Olympus, the gods constantly watch over and intervene in the war. Their rivalries and alliances often mirror the struggles on the battlefield, as they take sides between the Greeks and the Trojans. Zeus, the king of the gods, holds the ultimate power over the fate of the war. Though he tries to remain impartial, his influence is often swayed by the pleas of other gods and goddesses. He controls fate but allows the war to unfold according to destiny. Hera and Athena, both powerful goddesses, share a deep hatred for Troy, a result of Paris's judgment in favor of Aphrodite. They conspire together to aid the Greeks, often interfering to protect their chosen heroes, especially Achilles. Aphrodite, having won the judgment of Paris, is fiercely loyal to him. She saves Paris during his duel with Menelaus and works to protect Troy, though her meddling often draws the ire of the other gods. Apollo, god of the sun and a fierce protector of Troy, uses his powers to aid the Trojan forces. He strikes the Greeks with a devastating plague and often directly intervenes in battles to turn the tide in favor of the Trojans. The gods themselves are not united, and their rivalry mirrors the conflict on the battlefield. Each god seeks to promote their favored side, resulting in divine interventions that sway the balance of the war. These rivalries often exacerbate the struggles of the mortals below. The gods do not merely observe, they change the course of battles. Zeus sends Hector's strength to lead the Trojans, Athena helps Diomedes strike down Ares, and Poseidon covertly aids the Greeks. These moments of divine intervention shape the war's most critical events. Many gods have personal connections to the mortal heroes. Thetis, Achilles' divine mother, plays a crucial role in seeking Zeus's favor for her son, while Aphrodite has deep ties to Aeneas. These bonds between gods and mortals blur the lines between divine and human fates. Though the gods control much of the war's fate, their meddling comes at a cost. The more they intervene, the more chaos ensues. The lives of mortals hang in the balance, with some battles decided not by skill or strategy, but by the whims of the divine. In the Iliad, the gods serve as both guides and obstacles, controlling the tides of fate while reflecting the emotions and conflicts of the mortal realm. Without them, the Trojan War would be a very different tale. The gods' involvement in the Trojan War reminds us of the ancient belief in forces greater than humanity, forces that could elevate or destroy, sometimes without reason. Their interventions make the Iliad a story not only of human conflict but of divine will. Stay tuned for more episodes on the Iliad and its legendary characters. Welcome to the pivotal moment in the Iliad, the intense duel between Paris of Troy and Menelaus of Sparta, a clash that could determine the fate of the war. The duel is set as part of a truce between the Greeks and Trojans. Paris, who abducted Helen, faces Menelaus, her wronged husband. Both sides are eager for a resolution, but the stakes are incredibly high.
You stole my wife, Paris! Today, justice is mine!
She came willingly. I will fight for her, and for my honor.
Paris, confident and defiant, steps forward to challenge Menelaus. He is driven by pride and the protection of his honor, bolstered by the support of Aphrodite, who favors him. Menelaus, fueled by his desire for revenge and the chance to reclaim his wife, accepts the challenge with a steely resolve. The duel will be a critical moment for both sides. The duel begins amid the roar of the armies. Paris and Menelaus engage in fierce combat, their swords clashing in a struggle that embodies the larger conflict between the Greeks and Trojans.
You're no warrior, Paris. You are a coward hiding behind Aphrodite.
I am the Prince of Troy.
As the duel reaches its peak, Aphrodite intervenes to protect Paris. In a dramatic twist, she envelopes him in a mist and transports him away from the battlefield, defying the truce and the outcome of the duel. Menelaus is left in frustration and disbelief as Paris vanishes before his eyes. His chance for vengeance and resolution is thwarted, leaving him and his troops outraged.
Where is he? Fight, you coward!
The outcome of the duel leaves both sides in turmoil. The Greeks are outraged by the divine interference, while the Trojans feel victorious but uncertain. The truce quickly unravels, and hostilities resume with greater intensity. Paris returns to Troy with Helen, greeted by his fellow Trojans. However, the tensions and uncertainties caused by the duel's interruption only add to the growing conflict. The duel between Paris and Menelaus was more than a personal conflict, it symbolized the broader struggle between Greece and Troy. Its interruption and the divine intervention highlight the gods' deep involvement in mortal affairs.
War, fought for a love that never should have been.
The intervention of Aphrodite underscores the gods' constant manipulation of human affairs. Their influence often alters the course of events, reflecting the deep connection between divine will and mortal destiny. Stay tuned as we continue to explore the epic tale of the Iliad. Next, we'll delve into the ongoing battles and personal dramas that shape the course of the Trojan War. Welcome to the critical moment in the Iliad, the embassy to Achilles, where Greek leaders seek to persuade their greatest warrior to return to battle. The Greek army is struggling without Achilles, facing heavy losses in battle against the Trojans. Desperation sets in as the warriors realize they need their greatest hero back. In a meeting of the top Greek leaders, Odysseus suggests sending an embassy to Achilles. They know that without him, their chances of victory are slim. The leaders prepare gifts for Achilles, hoping to entice him back into the fight. They decide that Odysseus will be the primary speaker. The journey to Achilles' tent is filled with tension. The leaders know the stakes are high, they must convince him to return. Inside, Achilles broods over his grievances, feeling disrespected and betrayed by Agamemnon's actions. His anger clouds his judgment. Odysseus steps forward, presenting the gifts and pleading with Achilles to return. He appeals to Achilles' sense of honor and glory.
Achilles, we come bearing gifts and a plea for your return. The Greek army is faltering.
Achilles, however, remains unmoved. He refuses to return, stating that Agamemnon's actions have irreparably hurt his pride.
What do I care for gifts? Agamemnon has disrespected me. I will not fight for him.
Phoenix, an old mentor to Achilles, attempts to appeal to his emotions. He tells stories of their past victories together and the bonds of friendship.
Achilles, remember our victories. We fought as brothers. Your absence brings us despair.
Brotherhood means nothing if it comes with humiliation.
Ajax lends his support, emphasizing the dire situation and how the Greek forces are suffering without Achilles.
We are losing lives without you. You are our greatest hope.
Hope? I find no hope in betrayal.
As the embassy pleads, Achilles battles with his feelings of loyalty and his hurt pride. He recalls moments of glory, but his anger towards Agamemnon remains. The gifts presented include treasures and promises of respect. They hope to rekindle his warrior spirit. Achilles finally speaks, expressing that he will not return to battle, emphasizing that he will not fight for Agamemnon.
Consider the fate of your people, Achilles.
They chose Agamemnon over me. I stand alone.
The embassy leaves, defeated. Their mission failed, and the Greek army faces even greater peril without Achilles.
What will become of us now?
The consequences of Achilles' refusal echo throughout the Greek camp. Will they find a way to turn the tide without their greatest hero? Subscribe for more epic stories from the Iliad. Welcome to a pivotal moment in the Iliad, Patroclus' heroism and tragic death, which forever changes Achilles. With Achilles still refusing to fight, the Greek army suffers heavy losses, pushing their morale to the brink. Patroclus, Achilles' closest companion, witnesses the suffering and feels a deep sense of responsibility. Determined to help, Patroclus approaches Achilles, pleading for him to rejoin the battle. Patroclus urges Achilles, reminding him of their bond and the Greeks' desperate need for his strength. Achilles remains stubborn, still hurt by Agamemnon's betrayal, unwilling to re-enter the fray. In a desperate bid to rally the Greeks, Patroclus dons Achilles' armor, symbolizing hope and courage. Patroclus leading the Greek army into battle, spear raised high, with soldiers rallying behind him. Patroclus inspires the Greek army, and they push the Trojans away from the ships, regaining ground. As he fights bravely, Patroclus encounters Hector, the greatest warrior of Troy, leading to an inevitable clash. The two warriors clash, their weapons striking fiercely amidst the backdrop of war.
You're brave, but you fight for a lost cause.
I will defend my comrades! Hector!
In a tragic turn, Hector manages to strike Patroclus down, a devastating loss for the Greeks. When Achilles learns of Patroclus' death, he is consumed by grief and rage, realizing the depth of his loss. In his sorrow, Achilles vows to avenge Patroclus' death, reigniting his warrior spirit.
Hector will pay for this. I will avenge you, Patroclus.
Patroclus' heroism and tragic death set the stage for a fierce confrontation between Achilles and Hector, altering the course of the war. Subscribe for more epic stories from the Iliad. Welcome to the powerful tale of Achilles' rage, a force that shapes the course of the Trojan War. Patroclus' death leaves the Greek army heartbroken, but it ignites a fury within Achilles. Overwhelmed with grief, Achilles vows to avenge his fallen friend, feeling both rage and guilt. Fueled by rage, Achilles decides to rejoin the battle, ready to confront Hector. He transforms from a grief-stricken warrior into a vengeful force, preparing for battle.
We fight for Patroclus! Let his death not be in vain!
For Patroclus! For glory!
His words ignite a spark of hope and courage in the hearts of the weary soldiers. With Achilles back in the fight, the tide of battle shifts, and the Trojans tremble. Achilles unleashes his rage on the battlefield, taking down Trojan warriors with relentless fury. At last, Achilles faces Hector, the man who killed Patroclus, a moment filled with inevitable tension.
You will pay for the blood you've spilled, Hector!
I fear no man. Come, Achilles!
The two warriors clash in a fight that will determine the fate of many. Achilles, driven by rage, strikes Hector down, avenging Patroclus and fulfilling his vow. In his anger, Achilles desecrates Hector's body, a powerful act of vengeance. Hector's death sends shockwaves through Troy, leaving his family and city in mourning. Achilles' rage brings both triumph and turmoil, setting the stage for further tragedy.
Is this victory, or the beginning of my own downfall?
The rage of Achilles alters the course of the war, but at what cost? The epic tale continues. Subscribe for more epic stories from the Iliad. Welcome to the tragic tale of Hector, the noble prince of Troy, and his fateful encounter with Achilles. Hector, the eldest son of Priam, stands as Troy's greatest defender, beloved by his people. He fights not just for honor, but for the safety of his family and homeland. After avenging Patroclus, Achilles seeks out Hector, determined to end his life.
I will not flee from my fate. I will face Achilles.
The clash of titans begins, with both warriors fighting for glory and survival.
Prepare to meet your end, Hector!
I fear you not, Achilles.
Achilles' skill and rage fuel his every move, overwhelming Hector in their duel.
Wait! Let us make a pact. Respect my body, and I will do the same.
With a fierce thrust, Achilles strikes Hector down, fulfilling his vow of vengeance.
No more deals, Hector! This ends now!
Despite his victory, Achilles feels a hollow triumph in Hector's death. In his rage, Achilles drags Hector's body, a final act of vengeance that shocks both sides. The city of Troy mourns as Hector's family is left shattered by his loss.
Oh, Hector! What will we do without you?
Our city is lost without its greatest warrior.
Hector's legacy as a hero endures, remembered for his valor and love for his family. The death of Hector marks a turning point in the war, setting the stage for further tragedy in the Iliad. Subscribe for more epic stories from the Iliad. Welcome to the epic conclusion of the Iliad, where we witness the fall of heroes and the fate of a city. Achilles, the mightiest warrior of the Greeks, returns to the battlefield, fueled by rage and grief. It is foretold that Achilles will die young but achieve everlasting glory. His fate looms. While often seen as a coward, Paris holds the key to Achilles' fate with his deadly aim. Achilles fights valiantly, seeking vengeance for Patroclus, but destiny awaits. With Hector slain, Achilles feels a mix of triumph and emptiness, unaware of his own fate. In a moment of fate, Paris takes aim, guided by Apollo's hand. The arrow strikes true, hitting Achilles in his only vulnerable spot, his heel. The Greeks are thrown into chaos, their greatest warrior has fallen. As news spreads, his friends and allies mourn the loss of their invincible champion. Achilles is honored with a grand funeral, cementing his legacy as a legendary warrior. With Achilles gone, the Greeks devise a cunning plan to breach Troy's walls. The infamous Trojan horse. Under the cover of darkness, Greek soldiers emerge, leading to the city's downfall. The Greeks sack the city, ending the long siege and bringing devastation to Troy. As Troy falls, many heroes meet tragic ends, while others face uncertain futures. The fall of Achilles and Troy leaves an enduring legacy, a timeless tale of heroism, love, and loss. Subscribe for more epic stories from the Iliad.